Good morning, everyone. Well, at least it is for me. I finally have an opportunity to get back to working on the white Fiero. If you were watching the last video, you saw where we got shut down last time, and that was motor mounts. So this is the motor mount that I had ordered before that was for, presumably, for our application, but this is the earlier motor mount. This won't fit ours. This is the Fiero store's one. Oddly enough, they seem to be the only one that can find the correct part number anymore. I mean, it is their specialty, but I would think it wouldn't be that hard to find the parts, but I guess it is. So this is what the larger front hydraulic mount is for an 88 V6 and 88 subframe. So we'll get that all together and that's ready to go back in the car. I also checked through my supply of parts and everything in the backyard, and I found I have the rear transmission mounts too. I don't know why I have these. I don't know when I bought them, but I guess they're going to work. I'll put them in this one. Those at least are universal. Those didn't change. So we'll be able to swap those out. So they'll be sitting on all nice, clean mounts. So that being said, let me stop talking. Let me get to work. We'll get this thing dropped on the subframe, start slamming everything together and get it swung under the car. And hopefully we can drop this whole thing down and it'll just go smoothly and goes right back in. Yeah, it's not going to go that way. It's not going to go smoothly at all. Yep. So everything's still sitting here, just like where I left it. But now that we have that motor mount, we can actually do stuff. So I just need to get this thing picked up. We'll go ahead and drag this subframe, get it up underneath it, and we'll see about starting to actually put this thing together. At this point, it really should be pretty quick. There's not a whole lot of actually finagling or figuring anything out. Should all pretty much just drop together. The subframe's kind of dirty and nasty from previous leaks and stuff like that. If I had more time or being a lot pickier, I would bother to actually clean it up. But with time and everything, I'm just gonna throw it all together and it'll be fine. Also, I don't really have a pressure washer here right now, which would make it a lot more difficult. If I had a pressure washer, I might drag it out and shoot it, but. So let me get you set up and I'll go ahead and start putting this thing together. Something else I forgot to mention, I still have a little bit of wiring that I got to switch over. It's not a lot, but there's I need to rob the alternator connector and a couple other minor things. But pretty much there. Close. Always make sure you match up your motor mounts. So if you got a couple new replacement, just make sure everything lines up. Looks like the only real difference with this one, it's kind of nice actually, I guess they gave you studs. So we don't have bolts, we just have studs and we'll put nuts on. So, but the angle and everything is the same. The dollies aren't going to be as important at this point. In fact, actually, they're kind of in the way. We just need to get this whole thing up on top of the legs for this. Once we got that, we're good. We can work with it. So now we've got the engine hung over it, and you'll notice, or you might notice, it's a little far forward of where we actually want to be. But remember, this boom as it comes down is actually going to lower the engine a little farther back this way, and there's going to be a little bit of fighting with it, but it'll go in. But in any case, so we've got our new mounts right here, and I've learned over the years from experience, it tends to be a little easier typically to set the front motor mount in there and actually lower this whole thing down and let it kind of settle down onto it, and then you can put the nuts on it. It's just a little bit easier than having to, because otherwise you're trying to fight the two studs to get them in their hole, and it just, they'll catch like right in here, and then you're fighting this thing trying to force it back. It's usually it's a lot easier to settle it down on that. So let me get you set up again, and I'll go ahead and lower this thing down. Okay guys, so I've got the motor all bolted down, engine and transmission are bolted to the frame. We're all tightened down, it's not going anywhere anymore. In fact, got the whole thing picked up, the entire engine, transmission, subframe picked up with the hoist at the moment. And it's because what I wanted to do was try to mock together the exhaust. I don't have these fully bolted on, they're just on here. But I wanted to mock together and see if, when I put the crossover pipe in place, if I could get it to line up with the exhaust system that's already mounted to the subframe. And the short answer is no. I did find if you remove the hanger springs over there and over here and you pull it all the way over, you could make it fit. You would just have to cut these little tangs right here and twist this around so that it matched up with that. Now the problem with this though is then all the exhaust would be crooked under the car. So as much as I'd like to use this system, the smart thing to do is just replace it with the probably good correct 6-cylinder exhaust I have, because this is all homemade-ish. This was made out of bits and pieces of exhaust system. I'm pretty sure they bought all the parts from the Fiero store, but it was specifically made for this 4-cylinder application that it was in, and it's not quite gonna fit. But that brings me back to, so I've got it most of the way off, and I'm trying to figure out getting it the rest of the way, but let me show you what, the reason I didn't take this off under the car like I planned. So these are exhaust hangers that someone built, which are far superior in my opinion to the factory ones. This concept is way easier. Just take a nut off and take this big thing flange off and it hangs. But they welded a stud onto the frame, which that's great, I like that. But they did this. Why did they weld or tack weld the nut on the stud that holds the exhaust? I can't fathom a good reason. The same thing over here, why you would do this, especially considering this is rubber that's going to dampen it. There won't be any vibration for this to come loose. All they did was make it so that whenever someone did this again, they wouldn't be able to utilize these cool hangers because they're going to have to saw the whole thing off and weld new ones on if they want it. I cannot fathom it, and it's one of those things that I just I don't know why it bothers me so much, but for someone to do that, it's just rude. In any case, I'll take let me get my death wheel out and I'll just saw them off. And I've already got the front hangers loose, and it should just drop right off. And then I don't know if I'll bother mounting the new one until we get this all in the car, but at least this will be out of the way. We won't have to mess with it anymore. But that's why, because these are much easier to saw off, because the subframe was bolted here and all the body of the car, it was much harder to get in here before. So it'll be much easier to just take the cutoff wheel and just bzz, and they'll come off. But I was hoping to reuse this. Maybe it'll find its way onto my car because my muffler's blown out, but I don't know. You can see though, like it's got flanges all over the place where they welded it all together. It was specifically made for that 4-cylinder. So I'm gonna grab the cutoff wheel and we'll get to removing it. That one's off. Exhaust is off. Okay, so here's the deal with the exhaust. This is new information to me somehow after being involved in the Fiero community for like over a decade. But apparently the exhaust pipe that connects the front and rear manifolds and runs down to the exhaust is different on an 88. So this right here, this is a crossover pipe for an 84 to an 87. It's different in a couple ways. Primarily, this section of the pipe is shorter. I think these bends are a little different. The angle for this is less extreme than it is on the 88. This is for the EGR valve. But namely, this flange is completely different. On an 88, this flange is turned. So instead of being more like this, it's turned like that to match this. And I'm pretty sure this is a V6 exhaust off an 88. I know that other exhaust system is obviously came out of an 88 and it's suspiciously close. Again, I think what we're going to be, what's probably the smartest thing to do here is track down, and I'm trying, another 88 part, and that's this crossover part, the crossover exhaust piece. Now the nice thing is, to some degree, is that this doesn't shut me down for working on it today. I can keep doing what I need to do and even put it in the car if I get that far. But I need to take this exhaust off, which is just zip tied on for fitment right now, but I need to take this off, and it's just not going to have a crossover pipe, and put it in the car, and hopefully I can source one. If I can't, I could, I mean this, I'm pretty sure this will fit. This would work, the earlier one. Problem with this is, in order to use it, I have to start hacking things up. Like I could cut or make or get a flange and run, but the rest of the exhaust system's not going to work. It's a lot of welding and time. And if it were just for me, I'd be okay with just putting this on here, running it with an open down pipe for a little bit, and it just being loud and obnoxious. But it's not for me. And I know, you know, that's not the way I want to do it on this car. So I'll start hunting for a replacement manifold, and hopefully I can get a lead on one that's not going to cost me a ton. Get another crossover pipe. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep working on stuff. I need to go ahead and switch over the connector for, do a little bit of wiring, switch over the connector for the alternator and a couple other little things. And then actually, this is pretty much ready to go back under the car because it is all bolted together. It's just, I've spent half the day figuring out this exhaust thing, unfortunately. But, all right, well, let me get over there and start messing with wiring. All right. So, another thing on the list of stuff I need to get. So like we talked about, I need to figure out whatever's going on with the crossover pipe. But this is the piece of wiring that I had to borrow off the old 4-cylinder harness to run the larger alternator that the 88 car should have. Now I could have installed an older one that used the old 2-pin connection, but I'm gonna do the upgrade. I'm gonna switch over to this. Now I need to figure out exactly which wires. This one's obviously a 3-wire. The old one was a 2. So I need to do a little bit of looking on that. And I'm also out of solder. Fun. More things I'm finding I don't have, or I'm out of stock. So I ordered some because it's way cheaper than buying it at the parts store. And I need to extend, when I get that solder, I need to extend this speedometer wire over to there, to the speedometer sensor. So there's a couple oddball things, and I need to deal with that. And I need to chase exhaust, like final wrap up on vacuum hoses and stuff. But honestly, all this stuff can be done with it in the car. This will suck a little bit in the car, but that's, I mean, I've done that. So what I'm gonna do right now, because I'm tired of looking at it sitting here like this, I'm gonna take this thing, see if I can get it on the ground, see if I can get stuffed in the car. So at least if I get this thing down on all fours again, I'll feel better. So let me get you set up, let me get to work, see if I can get this thing on the ground and drug back under that and see if we can start lowering it down, start figuring out even more things that we're missing that we're going to need. You may have also noticed that I broke down and I'm not wearing my PPE anymore, my jeans and my boots. It is stupid hot here now. So don't do like me. Make sure you're always have closed-toed shoes, long pants. But this is what I'm doing. Let's see. You know that the most stable thing in the world is a pyramid? This is not that. But hopefully with this supported at enough points, see how this goes. Okay. Try not to upset it. Let's see if I can get the hoist out from underneath it. Excellent. Okay. Hoist is away. All right. dolly under it. Okay. It's all rollable again. So every time you do this, it's going to be a little bit different. Again, this comes back to, planning out your area, your space, making sure you have enough room that you can do this safely. You have room left, right. I unfortunately did bump the side of the car. Most of that will buff out. But again, nothing that bad. But this is something, you get it back down on the ground. But it's doable. It is doable. You just gotta get after it. So now, we start looking it over. Probably start sliding it under the car. See if we can get it installed. That'd be pretty cool. Even if it's not ready to start, if it looks like a car again with an engine in it, that's pretty motivating. So, when we get to it. I should mention, one of the things I've done here is I left on the other side the front trailing arm that I had disconnected earlier to get the CV axle to flip. I've left it loose. And the reason is to give these more room. This one's going to be, remember when this was coming out, they were pinching. They were dragging along the inside. They were angled in. If I leave that other one loose, I can let this one kind of slide at an angle up in. And then at a certain point halfway down, I can tilt in and lock the CV axles into place and allow the struts to go where they need to go. That way we don't bind up, because otherwise if they're both pinched inward, I'm worried about them fighting with them hitting the body going up. So, but we're mostly in place. Bear in mind the car is going to kind of change position as it comes down. You'll have to come down easy. You might have to go back up a little, come down, go up, come down. Kind of it's a dance. But you can eventually get it where you need it to be. So we start working on that dance. If I can get this thing in here. So as you're coming in, you're going to want to go ahead and just look in here a little bit. Make sure, I mean that's not really critical, but take a look around, make sure you don't have anything impinging, hitting anything it's not supposed to. Looks like I've got the AC line kind of fighting a little bit there. Get that down back there. But you can kind of see sort of how it's lining up and where it's going to go. So I'm going to keep going down with it. So I want to show you underneath here. This is the passenger side rear. Just give you an idea of where we are. Passenger side rear subframe mounting point. So what I did was I started to find whatever the first things are that line up. And it turned out for me it's the backs. It's these rear subframe mounts. So I managed to use, I used a long pry bar, what they call a lady slipper, but you could use a long screwdriver, whatever. Stuck it through the hole that the bolt's in, up into the body of the car, and then kind of shifted it around until they both lined up. And I started the bolt, and I did this on both sides. So now we're located. Now we're basically to the subframe can only move so much. So what this means is that the subframe is now locked at the back of the car. It barely is able to move. It can tilt, which is why we don't want to abuse this too much, but we're locked left and right. So now we can just work on these two struts, getting them lined up. Really, once they're lined up and have locating nuts on the top to lock them in, we should be able to basically just drop all the weight down and then just line up the front ones. But I wanted to show you that because that's generally how you do it. You always find wherever you can at least a couple that you can start with bolts, and that will lock your orientation so that you can work with whatever you need to do to get the rest of it installed. So with that being said, let me get back to work and get this thing in here. But we're starting to look like it's motor swapped. There's still a ton of work to do, but we're getting there. And you can see, because I located the backs, that's the spot where the subframe meets the body of the car, the unibody, and they're lined up. They just got to come into place. Our struts are starting to line up. I need to move that one over, but they're starting to line up. I'll be able to just knock the CV axles into place down there here in a minute. But we're getting there. It is starting to look motivational. It's starting to look like an actual engine swap car now. Would you look at that? Doesn't that look good now? It's still kind of a mess of wires, but that is a cammed 2.8 liter 6-cylinder sitting in this car finally, and it is all actually bolted in. It needs all the wiring, plumbing, exhaust, but that is a good sight. That is what we were trying to get to. Well, next I gotta start figure out where I'm going from here. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do today is see if I can turn this car back into a roller. So I'm not gonna mess around with the engine anymore today. I'm just gonna see if I can bolt the brakes back on and get the wheels back on it and get it down on all fours. Honestly, because I want my garage back so that that one can come back inside. But we'll see if I can get that done today. But if I can get it down on all four tires, it'll be a little bit of a pain, but I can push it around, and I think I can shimmy its way over to this side of the garage, and then we can go from there. So let me see if I can start getting that put back together. Woo! Alright guys, that was a long, hot thrash, but the engine, transmission, subframe are in the car. But we still got a whole lot of work to do. Still got wiring, we've got plumbing. We've got to switch out dog bone bushing. I've got a little bit of soldering, a little more work we got to do. And you'll see all of that on the next episode. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate it. When I see the comments, I see all that stuff. It's pretty cool. I like that. It's neat that people are getting to see what I'm doing, and some people are taking an interest. Maybe some people are actually learning a thing or two, and that's fun. That's cool for me. So in any case, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. You have a good rest of your day.